Hello. So the topic for today is all about juvenile delinquency and crime prevention. Juvenile delinquency and crime prevention is again included in our sociology area, which is usually being taken during the criminologist licensure examination on its third day. So it's 15% of our computed general weighted average. For the topic outline, so we'll be defining first child, okay, as defined by our Philippine jurisprudence, the concept of child, and then we will be classifying them. Okay, second topic will be on the juvenile delinquency. We define juvenile, we define delinquency, and then we define juvenile delinquency. Likewise, the third topic that will be discussed during this lecture series will be the approaches in the study of delinquencies. Approaches meaning to say, usually sociologists blame sometimes the society, sometimes we blame the person itself, and sometimes we blame the environment. So, what approaches makes use of this and makes use of that? Now, another topic here will be on the theories of crime causation, okay, or theories of crime or criminal delinquency or juvenile delinquency, meaning to say we'll be discussing here the reasons why is it then in community uh, uh, there are delinquencies that happen. So there were persons before who tried to explain why is it that in a certain community there are these kinds of delinquencies that occurs within their society or occurs within their community. Okay. What else? That the environment in its delinquency. We'll be discussing that one. Of course, this includes the home, the school, the church, the mass media. Okay, what are the roles? How important is their activities? And then the legal parameters will also be discussed on the future videos. So on the legal parameters, we'll concentrate here on Republic Act 9344, of course, and then Presidential Decree 60 and then 3. And then RA 9344 was amended by Republic Act 10630, and then we'll discuss other pertinent laws, okay, which includes Republic Act 7610 and then others. Okay, let us first try to understand the concepts of child. But before that, I wanted everybody of us here to identify how important children were. Okay, because to an ordinary person, whether or not you're a child or you're an adult, okay, treatments, punishments, and then all kinds of uh, uh, dealing with these kinds of behaviors will be the same. Okay, without hesitations as to whether or not there will be justifications or whether or not there would be exemptions for these actions. Now, the Philippines recognized the importance of these children. That even in our 1987 Constitution, the child was recognized as not a mere creature but a citizen of the Philippines which should be taken good care of the state or specifically the Philippines. So insofar as they are likewise included in the general welfare of the people. So therefore, molding these children starts at home. So if molding of these children starts at home, home is one of the basic or the cradle of human personality. Is considered as the cradle of human personality. Being considered as a cradle of human personality, it is therefore important that the home, which inside the home you have your father, mother, siblings. These are very important in developing the personality of these children. Likewise, okay, we also have here the school, church, the mass media. They have also the roles and responsibilities when it comes to the upbringing of these children. Likewise, other institutions or any more kinds of institutions. These children are needed to be taken good care of. Okay, these children are important within our society. For the basic concepts of juvenile delinquency, let us first define who is this child. Okay, who is this child? How do we define child? Okay, on the legal parameters, of the Philippine jurisprudence, child is defined as any person, meaning to say it could be a boy or a girl. It could also be a minor. Okay, it is also referred to as youth. Okay, it starts from infancy to adolescence. And likewise, any person who is aging from 1 year old to 18 years of age are considered child. Well, that is provided for by our literatures. Okay, specifically Republic Act 9344. But before that, PD 603. Okay, during the time the PD 603 was enacted, when you say child, these are persons, boy or girl, aging 21 years old. But because of the the laws repealing, amending these kinds of ages, they turn it down from 21 to 18. Okay? It also includes infants or even unborn children, meaning to say that even you are unborn, you are in the inside the womb of your father, or sorry, your mother. Okay? Your civil rights, according to our civil code, starts. Okay? Or civil rights of children are already given to these children. Question. Ninoy P. Marcos, 21 years of age, is always bullied by his classmates because he is suffering from mental disability. Under the law, he is considered what? Is it A, idiot, B, adult, C, child, or D, neglected child, or E, abandoned child? Of course, we will not be considering him as an idiot nor an adult. So eliminate letter A and letter B. Is he considered a child? Well, yes. The answer here is letter C. Under Presidential Decree 603, children are those people who ages beyond 18 years of age but are unable to fully take good care of themselves are still considered a child. Next question. For the purpose of lowering the age, what law was enacted and amended Executive Order 202 on the emancipation of children? A, Republic Act 9344, RA 7610, RA 6809, or PD 603? The answer here is Republic Act 6809. Now, why is it not Republic Act 9344? This is 9344 is the Juvenile Justice. Okay, Republic Act 7610 is the VAUSI law. And PD 603 is the Juvenile Welfare Code of the Philippines. Now, remember the following. A person who is below 18 years old or those over but unable to fully take good care of themselves from abuse, cruelty, exploitation, or discrimination because of physical or mental disability or condition are still considered a child. Basis for this is PD 603, 6809, 7610, and 9344. Another question here. A person who is without parent, guardian, or custodian whose parents, guardian, or custodian for good cause desires to be relieved of his care and custody is considered an abandoned child, neglected child, dependent child, mentally ill, or dependent child. The answer here is dependent child. Okay, the next topic will be the categories of child or children as provided for by PD 603 as amended. Now, what are the categories of these children? First category. Dependent child is a child without parent, guardian, or custodian, or whose parents, guardian, or custodians desires to be relieved of his care and custody and is dependent upon the public for support. Now, when you speak of guardians or custodian, a guardian is a person entrusted with the care and custody of something or someone. While guardian, on the other hand, is someone who guards or watches or protects something or someone. For example, if the child is to inherit something or to inherit a money or asset, a custodian will be named to manage the assets of the child, okay, until it reaches the age of majority or the appropriate age as we mentioned. While guardian, on the other hand, is responsible for overseeing the day-to-day activities of this child okay, from its physical to financial well-being. So that means the child, if he will be getting money from his hires, his grandfather, father, mother, okay, when it comes to their assets, a custodian will be the one to manage these properties until the child has able to fully uh, reach his appropriate age and manage these properties. While on the other hand, when you say guardian, he is just to see what will the child do on these properties and assets given to him by his parents or guardians. How about for good cause? We will say it is good cause if the person means he is worth, these things are worth doing for or giving it because it helps another people. So a child will be on the grounds of good cause if he is, these things that he is performing are worthy or enough to say it is for good cause. For example, raising a money or charity, working for her or working for him or her properties or for his properties are example of good cause. Another thing that you should remember here is the word relieved. How will we say he is relieved of his care and custody? When you speak of relieved, it connotes something that we are feeling happy. We are relieved. Okay, we are all relieved to be back home. For example, we are relieved that it is over. We are relieved that the result is very good. So meaning to say, the person is glad, the person is happy, the person is pleased, the person is comforted in doing this good cause, in doing and raising the money, in doing charities. So therefore, it is considered for good cause, a relief from his care and custody because he's happy doing these things that he is able to do it for he or himself. Dependent, on the other hand, means something or someone means you need them in order to succeed and able to. When you speak of dependent child, the child has no parent or a child does not have any person who take good care of his assets. A child does not have any form of custodian who oversees him for everyday activities. A child is doing something that is according to his will. He is happy doing these things. He is dependent, however, to the public for this kind of support. In short, this dependent child are those child who can happily do things, who can survive without his parents or guardians or custodian. Number 4 question. Categorically speaking, child whose parents are working abroad is an abandoned child. A. Yes, if it is done within a half year, that is 6 months. B. Yes, if it is within 3 continuous months. C. No. D. A and B, or D. Doubtful. The answer here is letter B. It must be within 6 continuous months. Well, before it is considered as 6 continuous months. But because of the amendments of certain laws, they are considering it as 3 continuous months. So, abandoned child is the second category of children as PD 603 provides. A child is considered abandoned if the child has no proper parental care, guardianship, or those parents or guardian has deserted him for a period of at least 3 continuous months. Now, what are the things that you should remember when you speak of abandoned child? For this abandoned child, we have Republic Act 9523. Okay, 2009 law, March 12 actually, 2009. This is an act requiring certification of Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, to declare a child legally available for adoption. This is the law that changes the dissertation or leaving a child from 6 continuous months provided by PD 603 to 3 continuous months. This is because 9523 lowered it from 6 months to 3 months. Another thing that it is important on this law is that they define what is abandoned. Okay? For this child to be considered an abandoned means typically to a parent's choice to willfully withhold physical, emotional, or financial support from the minor or the child. That means even physical things, emotional support, or financial support was deserted, was not given willfully by the parents, because if it is their own choice. In other words, abandonment occurs when the parent fails to fulfill their or his or her parental responsibilities. Again, what are these responsibilities? It could be physical, emotional, and financial. And chooses not to have contact with his or her child. Now, the law requires it to be 3 continuous months. In law, the term abandonment may be used in variety of legal issues, from contract of law, real estate law, referring to giving up or renunciation of interest, privilege, possession, or right with the intent to never reclaiming it again. So the parent will be considered abandoning his child if he has no interest, he has no right, he has no intent on reclaiming the child again. Okay? Will be considered uh, an abandoned child. As a term applies to matters of family law, individual may abandon marriage, spouse, or child property. Okay? So, another example of the word abandon here is uh, applicable for marriage, it's applicable for child or property. So, when you abandon the property, meaning to say you do not have the intent of going back or returning back to your property. Okay? However, for children, it needs to desert these children or leave these children without physical, emotional, or financial support, and does not have the intention to go back again or reclaim the child for 3 continuous months. Let us give you example of abandoned child. First, leaving the infant on doorstep in a trash can or inside of the road is another example of abandoning a child. The parent leave it in the front step of a door. He has no intention of going back there to reclaim the child. Being absent from home for a period of time, which is 3 continuous months, enough to create substantial risk of harm to a child left in the home. So that is when you say substantial, it is enough to harm the children, whether if it is physical, emotional, or financial. What else? Leaving a child in other persons or another person without providing the child support, or with no meaningful communication with a child or caregiver for a period specified by our law. Usually it is 3 months. Now, another example is failing to maintain regular visitation with a child for a period of at least 6 months, making only token efforts to support and communicate with the child, refusing or being unwilling to support supervision, care, or support of the child. What else? Failing to participate in parental plan program designed to reunite the parent or the child. And another one is failing to respond official notice of child protective or child custody proceedings. These are some only of the example of abandoning the child. What is important here for us during the licensure examination is to remember what do you mean by abandoned child. So, he has no parental care, that is financial, emotional, or physical support. It is enough, it's substantial. Meaning to say, that is already putting the child at the risk of his life. Okay, within 3 continuous months is enough to say that it is an abandoned child. Third category of children are neglected child. Neglected child are those person or child whose basic needs have been deliberately unattended to or inadequately unattended to. It is physically, again, emotionally, by his parents, guardians, or custodians. So what are the examples of these basic needs? Basic needs, these are your food, shelter, clothing. Okay? Deliberately, that is, your parent is really intentionally doesn't want to give you these basic needs or even inadequate provision or inadequately giving. Inadequately meaning to say that we are giving the child, maybe it lacks, there's quite few, okay, to say it is deliberately or to say it is inadequately unattended to. It could be physically or emotionally by his parents or guardians. Okay, so there are types of neglects that we are need to discuss. What are these? This is physical neglect and then emotional neglect. Okay? For physical neglect, we are able to categorize children to be physically neglected if we can see them as malnourished. Okay? Meaning to say the proper foods needed to nourish a body is not given or even inadequately given to by his parents or guardian. Ill-clad or without proper shelter are some of the signs wherein we will say that child is physically neglected. Emotionally neglected children could be seen if the child is raped, child is seduced, child is maltreated, exploited, overworked, or made to work under streets or public places, or when places in good moral or when it is placed in moral danger or exposed to drugs, alcohol, gambling, prostitution, or other vices. Those are examples of neglected child. However, you need to physically or emotionally recategorize them by those kind of signs that are needed to identify. Again, malnourishment, ill-clad, or the child is ill, it does not have proper shelter. Okay, he has been a victim of a rape, reduced, overwork, or in any other forms. Fourth category of children are disabled child. Disabled child includes mentally retarded, physically handicapped, emotionally disturbed, and mentally ill children. Children with cerebral palsy, and those inflicted with similar afflictions. Let us discuss this one by one. So, mentally retarded are those socially incompetent, that is socially inadequate, occupationally incompetent, and unable to manage his own affairs. Now, let us try to see what is socially competence or social competence that we are trying to discuss here in competence. When you say competent, it is defined as the ability to handle social interactions effectively. That means that the person has able to talk with other people, the person has able to mingle with other people, like students who are able to talk with her teacher, a teacher has been able to talk with his students, and vice versa. In other words, social competence refers to getting along with other people, being
Being
able
constantly
to
watched
form
is a
and
key
maintain a
in the
close
panopticon to
relationship, such as having boyfriend, girlfriend is an example of having close relationship, and responding in adaptive ways in social settings. Psychologically speaking, that these are persons we call as socially competent person. So on the other hand, if you do not have this kind of characteristics, you are socially incompetent. Okay? That is the time we will be considering you a mentally retarded person, hasn't been able to do the normal activities of a normal person, psychologically speaking. Another thing here is being mentally subnormal. Mental subnormality is defined by the World Health Organization as an incomplete or sufficient general development of mental capacities of a person. Well, we have to understand first what do you mean by subnormal. Subnormal is understood by normal people as not meeting the standards, or shall we say not meeting or reaching the level regarded as usual, meaning to say when all of the person are do all other individuals are doing this kind of things, this person is not able to cope up, or this person was not able to do what are the usual things that happen on that age group or in that kind of gender group. Okay, especially with respect to intelligence or development of the person. So for example, the development of a 4-year-old, or when a 4-year-old female is doing this, or these are the usual actions for a 4-year-old, female, this kind of person is not able to cope up with those kinds of actions or those kinds of behavior or those kinds of mental capabilities, we will say that it is subnormal or his mental capability is beyond or below normal level. Remember, mental retardation is present when a social or educational performance is lower than what is expected from the knowledge of intellectual abilities. It is not a disease, however. It's not a sickness, but a condition which the intellectual faculties are never manifested or having been developed sufficiently to be able to enable the retarded person to acquire such amount of knowledge as person of his own age, same level of a number of age, and placed in similar circumstance with himself are capable of receiving. That means that when a person is, or these groups of individual has this kind of knowledge for this kind of age group again, okay, which this person hasn't been able to cope up with, are example of subnormality when it comes to the mental or intellectual behaviors. Now, general intellectual functioning is measured by what you call as a IQ. Now, your intelligence quotient. Intelligence quotients, we should be able, if you try to search on that one, intelligence quotients, an individual must be able to have it equal, meaning to say kung if the questions is 100 divided by your age, you must come up with the 1 or to be able to come up with 100. Okay, that's the normal IQ, 70 to 100. That's the normal IQ level for each groups of individual. Now, you will be having here these kinds of IQ test. Okay, they will say that the person will be on a profound mental retardation having an IQ of 20 or 20 or less. Okay, these persons will be considered 1% mentally retarded. Very few of them can learn to take care of themselves. Some eventually achieve some simple speech or social behaviors. IQ test that they will be their IQ level will be from 20 or below. These are the individuals wherein having these are the individuals which has 20 or less IQ. Those persons with an IQ of 20 to 35 will be having a severe mental retardation. Okay. So it's about 7% mentally retarded. Now, in the preschool years, usually they are here. Okay, their development is usually greatly slowed. They are called as dependent individuals. As adults, they can undertake simple tasks and engage in limited activities. For the individuals having an IQ of 35 to 50, which is quantifiable to 10% of being mentally retarded, or under this category, they are considered as moderate mental retardation. They are those persons, we consider it as trainable. So, they can be trained to speak and support themselves by performing semi-skilled or unskilled work under supervision, such as running, such as coloring books, and others. For persons having an IQ of 50 to 70, they will be at about 85% of the total mentality is retarded. So these are mild mental retardation. Their motor and sensory deficiencies are slight, usually develop normal language abilities and or social behavior. Can be achieved by academic up to 8 to 8 standard, usually belong to socio-economic classes. As you can see here, the higher your IQ from 50 to 70, they are at least persons who are capable of controlling their motor or sensory thoughts or sensory capabilities. Lower than that, which is 35 to 50, these are persons we consider it as trainable. Meaning to say, when we let them do these things, they will do it, but there should be supervision of an individual. Having an IQ of 25 to 30 will be considered as dependent, meaning to say that the task given to them, or even a simple task given to them, okay, they will be engaging it. However, it is on limited activities only. And then lower than that is this, what you call as profound or mentally retarded individuals. Second subcategory of disabled children are what you call as physically handicapped children or physically handicapped child. For a physically handicapped child, it is easily understood are as follows. So these are persons who are crippled. Being crippled, these are persons who does not uh, properly move their muscle coordinations, who cannot properly move their muscles, or who cannot properly walk. Okay? They are deaf mute or deaf and mute. They are blind, meaning they cannot see, suffers from defects which restrict these individuals in a communication or talking to other individuals. From those words, physically handicapped, meaning to say that its physical attributes or physical their physical their bodies or some parts of their bodies are unable to fully function or not functional, being a physically handicapped child. Now, the third subcategory of what you call as disabled child is the emotionally disturbed child. Emotionally disturbed child, these are persons or children who, although they did not need to be afflicted, meaning to say they are not, they must not, it does not require that they must be insane. It does not require that they have mental defects before we will say they are emotionally disturbed. Emotionally disturbed child are those children who are not able to maintain normal social relations with others and the community in general due to emotional problems or complexes. Emotional problems, this could be again what just like what we have defined a while ago, that children's because of victims of immoralities, rape, seductions, and other kinds, they are not able to fully grow their they are not able to mature emotionally because of some emotional problems which they are trying to cope up first before they will be growing. These are children, we consider it as emotionally disturbed child. And the fifth category of child for this topic is the committed child. The fifth category of children is the committed child. Well, committed child is simply these people who are legally entrusted to the care of the Department of Social and Welfare Development or any duly licensed placement or caring agency. This licensed placement or caring agency will be discussed sooner or later, or the individual by a court, parent, or guardian. There are two kinds of committed child, the involuntary committed child and the voluntary committed child. Of course, when we speak of involuntary committed child, these are those children whose parents have been permanently and judicially deprived of parental authority due to abandonment, the substantial or continuous repeated neglect, abuse, or incompetence due to discharge of parental responsibility, just like we have discussed on the abandonment or neglecting of children. Well, as for the voluntary committed children, these are persons whose parents knowingly and willingly relinquish parental authority to the department or any duly licensed placement or caring agency. That means, the question now is, how do petition for involuntary committed or commitment of child is done? Will it be filed by the offended party? Will it be filed by the parents? Filed by the fiscal or filed by the DSWD or the court itself? we need to understand that this involuntary commitment of children is done by the or is filed by the Department of Social Welfare and Development. Well, after each case studies, they need first to identify whether or not the child is really an abandoned child, or the child is really neglected, or the child has been deserted for a previous for the required times. So it will be the Department of Social Welfare and Development to file for the involuntary commitment of child. Filing of a case is different. Filing of complaint is different. Filing of sworn statement is different. So they are only to file a petition for involuntary commitment. Another questions that should be asked here is, what if the petition filed by the DSWD, what should be the content? Is it the facts showing the child is dependent, abandoned, or neglected? Letter B, the name of the parents, if known, and their residence. C, the name of the duly licensed placement of individual whose care and commitment of the child is all of this, or A and B only. The answer here is all of this. So the petition that will be filed by the Department of Social Welfare and Development must have the facts showing that the child is independent or dependent, abandoned, or neglected. There must be proof in telling that these claims are true. The name of the parents, of course, and then the residence where they belong. Likewise, who is this person who has been taking good care of the child? Is it a child placement or an individual, or for the commitment of the child? Another question. Before a child be placed in an institution, he or she must be observed first, just like any other institutional facilities, which is known as child caring institutions, detention home, shelter care institution, receiving homes, or child placement agency. Okay, the answer here is letter D, receiving homes. So let us proceed to the next topic. The next topic are the agencies where these children will be committed. These children will be for adoption. These children will be for foster caring, or any other kinds of activities. Now, the first agency that is provided for under PD 603 is the Child Placing or Child Placement Agency. A child placement agency refers to a private or non-profit institution or a government duly licensed or an accredited department to provide comprehensive child welfare services, including, however, not only limited to receiving application for adoption or even for foster care, evaluating the prospective adoptive or foster parents, and preparing the home study report. Child Caring Agency. For the Child Caring Agency, this refers to a private non-profit institution or a government duly licensed and accredited by the Department, the Social Welfare Development Office, that provides only 24 hours residential care services for abandoned child, orphaned, neglected, involuntary, or voluntary committed child. Another agency is the detention home. For the detention home, this is a 24-hour institution providing short-term residence for youthful offenders who are awaiting court disposition of their cases or transfer to other agencies. Another institution is the Shelter Care Institution, which provides temporary protection and care to children which requires emergency reception as a result of fortuitous events, abandonment by parents, dangerous conditions of neglect or cruelty at home. Another institution is the receiving home. These receiving homes are family-type homes which provides temporary shelter from 10 to 20 days for children who shall during this period be under observation and study for eventual placement by the DSWD. However, ages must not exceed 9 or less, not exceeding 9 nor less than 3. Therefore, if the person is to receive application for adoption or foster care, he will be going to the placement agency. If it is because of abandonment, neglection, or neglecting voluntary or involuntary committed children's, there will be 24 hours residential care, which is our child caring agency. If these are youthful offenders who are awaiting court disposition, their cases or transfer or awaiting for transfer to another agency, they will go to a 24-hour institution. However, it is short-term resident care only, which is known as detention homes. Last two agencies is the shelter care institution. For shelter care institution, they only are for temporary protection and care of children because of fortuitous events, abandonment by parents, or any dangerous conditions. The receiving homes is for temporary shelter from 10 to 20 days only, which is to children under observation and eventually eventual placement by the DSWD. Question number 9. For question number 9, a dependent child is a person who is without parent, guardian, or custodian, or whose parents, guardian, or custodian blank. So, is it A, for good cause desires to be relieved of his care and custody and is dependent upon public for support? Is it B, for good cause desires to be relieved of his care and custody and is dependent upon public for support? Or letter C, for unjust cause desires to be relieved of his care and custody and is dependent upon the public for support? Letter D, for unjust cause desires to be relieved of his care and custody and is dependent upon the public for support. Okay, the answer will be letter B. So, why is it bravo? Remember, it is dependent is considered, a child is considered dependent only if he separates from his parent, guardian, or custodian for good cause. So, letter C and letter D will be removed because of the reason of having an unjust cause. Desires to be relieved of his care and custody and it should be a dependent and it's not dependent child. Question number 10. A person who is emotionally disturbed must be afflicted with insanity or mental defects. True or false? There's no such thing as maybe true or maybe false. So the answer here is false. Okay? So a person is emotionally disturbed. A person or a child is only emotionally disturbed. It does not require that it has been suffering from mental defects or insanity. Question number 11. Coco can be considered neglected even his basic needs is inadequately unattended. A. No, it must be deliberately unattended to. B. No, it must be within 6 continuous months. Yes. C. Yes, if it is within 6 continuous months. 6 continuous months, this is the old jurisprudence that tells us for abandoned children. PD 603 define abandoned children as those child who has been abandoned for 6 continuous months and has been amended to 3 continuous months. So the answer here is yes only. Coco can be considered neglected even his basic needs is inadequately unattended to. It does not require that his basic needs must be permanently unattended to. Inadequate is enough. Question number 12. If your friend is a victim of a disaster, a minor, an emergency, or similar event, to what agency will he be received? A. Child caring institution. B. Detention home. C. Shelter care institution. D. Receiving homes. Or E. Child placement agency. It is not child caring institution. This is for 24 hours only. And it's for adoption. It's not child placement agency. They are for fostering. And it is until the time the children has been adopted. The answer here is shelter care institution. Why? Because they only receive people who has been victims of fortuitous events or disasters or any other similar incidents. So the topic that we have discussed are the definition of child, the categories of child or categories of children, and then the agencies that are providing care or custody of children. Okay, gentlemen, ladies, do not forget to click the subscribe so that you will be updated for our next topics.